Woo! This episode was crazy. This episode was crazy. I have so many notes. I went through so many different like emotions watching this. Like I went from being like to laughing to like this is crazy. Crazy. This cast is delivering. This cast is delivering. I have not once thought about season 6. Like these episodes have been entertaining, and this one right here was the best one yet. This one right here is probably going to be one that I'm going to remember at the end of the season. But if y'all are new here, hit subscribe. Join the crew. Join the crew. We are growing. We're getting so close to 10K. Shout out to all of y'all that have came so far this season already. It's almost 500 to 600 of y'all that have come over the last week. Shout out to y'all. Thumbs up the video. Drop in the comments. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. I know y'all going to have some thoughts for this one. There's a lot going on this episode. And we get Bombshells next on Thursday, so it's gonna get even crazier. But this cast is delivering, and let's go because I'm gonna be talking for a minute. All right, so we get back to where Nick and Ace, they're having a conversation after Ace and Amaya had their little tiff, and Nick is like, "I heard you getting ripped apart by Amaya," and Ace is like, "That shit just does not turn me on." Like in a way, he's pretty much making it seem like her being all spicy and stuff like that. She might have thought that it might have gotten him turned on, but he said, I ain't signed up for that shit. I signed up to build a connection, be great friends, and build that and turn that into a relationship. That is how you should start off a relationship. Last night, he was gaslighting her. Today, it was a little bit different. I was more so on Amaya's side yesterday, but on this episode, I was on Ace's side, but we're going to get to it. But Amaya, her and Hannah are talking about it as well as these two are talking. And she's telling her about how he pretty much stated that he'd be friends before moving into a relationship or whatever. And she then says that she feels like he's still her number one. I said, so you're not really standing on business because you basically told him you offered him go explore the rest of them connections. So this is where I was like, this is where I knew that whenever she and Chelley had their confrontation, I was like, it's definitely all her. Well, we're going to get into that. But she ends up saying that she still wants to pursue it. And I'm like, Ace literally told you that he no longer wanted to pursue anything with you. So you continue to pursue this and you get hurt. That's on you, Maya. But while she's stating that, Ace is telling Nick that he no longer is pursuing her. Like, he going to try and be friends with her, but that's it. But he ends up telling him as well that she pretty much asked him if he wanted to still pursue it. And he told her, like, we can just be friends. And that's what he did say. That is what he said. But Hannah then tells Amaya, just remember that he had you crashing out 2 days in, which I'm like, exactly, so move on. But she ain't moving on. But Amaya ends up stating, maybe I need somebody on my level. She's stating that, but her actions changed. But is she really... I don't know. I'm going to get to it in a minute. But Amaya is funny, though. I'm sorry. Amaya, she went from irritating me to cracking me up. She's good TV. And when I say she's good TV, she's needed. Ever since she came on this show, it's been drama nonstop. Drama nonstop. She is good TV. She's probably going to be on other shows in the future. But she ends up stating that. And she says in her confessionals that she's trying to understand his character and he just doesn't understand hers. But I'm still not closing off that connection. I said, you setting yourself up now. And she did set herself up. But Jeremiah and Olandria, they're having a conversation. And I was like, oh, this is good. Because he actually pulled her to the dock to have a conversation. I said, this is the most excited I've been to ever see Jeremiah on my screen. Because I wanted to see what he was going to ask her. Because he's talking to the realest girl in the house. If you asking me, Olandria is the realest one. Chelley is real too. But to me, I put Olandria just a little bit over her. I'm not saying Chelley's fake. But like Olandria just gives off real energy. So he starts talking about how he's never really talked to a girl that has a kid. And basically the reason why he didn't is because like most people typically want to have a kid, have that woman's first kid. That's essentially that's his mindset. So he ends up telling her that when she had told him about the kid, he still liked her. Like he said, I still liked her. Olandria is like, so it didn't change anything. He was like, I won't know for sure until I see the kid. That was real. That's probably the realest thing that he said so far. But he said the kid, and when he said the kid, I started laughing. I'm like, you could have said her daughter. But, I mean, it's true, though. But Olandria says that's fair as fuck. And he then asked her if she's ever talked to a guy with kids. And she was like, I almost did. But the reason why I didn't is because of the baby mama, baby daddy drama. And, I mean, that's real. Like, a lot of people have those concerns because, as we all know, when it comes to dating somebody with a child, that comes with their parent. and their parent might not be all the way right. When I say all the way right, they might still have lingering feelings, which they might then lash out on you, who has nothing to do with it. They might lash out on you. They might try and make your life hell. So that's essentially what she's stating. She says it's slippery because they always will still have access to your person, which is true because they literally share a child together, and that's going to be something that's bonded to them for the rest of their life. So she ends up stating too, like, they don't always want to include you in their co-parenting as well. So that's why she didn't do it. But she says, like, I still want you to explore Huda, but don't lose sight of the fact that essentially it's not all Huda. Like, you need to focus on you as well. Like, she comes as a package, aka she got that child, but just know that you in it for yourself too, essentially. So he ends up telling her that Huda is telling Nick today to allow him to get a guy's perspective on the situation. And Olandria is saying in her confessionals that she sees Jeremiah as a good fit, but if he's going to take it on, he better take it all on. And that's the thing. If you're going to take it on, you got to. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. If you're going to be with that psycho and that child, you better deal with it. You got to deal with it, but you got to run for the hills if you're not. But she basically tells him, if you're okay with it, you got to now think for 3 and not 2. I said, And when she said that, she said, if you're okay with that, you'll be good. But the face he made, you could tell it just made too much sense to him. She was making too much sense because his face, he looked like, okay, I don't know if I want this. Because Jeremiah is funny, though, because Jeremiah, you can tell all over him. He can't hide his expressions and how he really feels. Like, it's all over his body language. So every time you could tell he's questioning something, you could see it all over his face. And he don't realize it. But Huda, she be paying attention to it. And she can see it, obviously, because she's obsessed with him. But we'll get to that later on in this recap. But we get Austin and Shepard. He ends up telling her that he likes her so much. And he feels like they're finally getting into a good place. And he don't want to put pressure on her. But he lets her know that seeing her with Ace does not make him feel too great. Y'all want to believe that I still don't believe it. I still don't believe it. You can't be doing and reposting the stuff that he did. I just can't forget it. I'm sorry, I can't. But she ends up stating, I wouldn't expect it to make you feel good, but I'm still figuring it out. She's pretty much reassuring him, like, I'm still exploring these 2 connections that I have, you and him, but we'll figure it out and I'll figure it out. But he then says to her that he wants her too, but he feels himself, he's saying this in his confessionals, that he feels himself emotionally pulling back. No, he says this to her. He says, I feel myself emotionally pulling back, but because I don't want to get hurt, that was smart. And it's very mature if he really does feel that way, because he wants to protect himself as well. Obviously anybody would, especially if you are feeling and getting strong feelings for somebody, and there's a possibility she might not feel that way for you. So, I mean, I understand that. But she then says that she wouldn't express to him that she actually likes him if she did not like him. And she says, like, I do still want to explore things with Ace because essentially between me and you, we've had a lot more time together. Me and Ace have not really had that much time. He understands that, and he said that makes me feel better. So they move on. We get Jeremiah and Huda having a conversation now. So she ends up asking him how he's feeling, and he says solid. That's it, solid. Very short. And she was like, so do you want me to leave you alone? She caught on to that. Like, do you want me to leave? She knows, and that's the thing. She knows when she pays attention to his body language, but she just don't. She don't follow nonverbal cues. Like, she can see body language when it comes to Jeremiah, but she just don't know. Clearly looking at him, he don't want to be bothered. But we'll get to that later on. But in this scene, he's like, what? Like, what do you mean, do you want me to leave you alone? And he said it with attitude and with a face. I was like, yeah, he might not like her for real now. Or at least he's starting to get off of her. But she ends up stating, like, at the bar, you was like, we're not talking to other people. And she's basically making it seem like he's now exploring those options, which he is. But he ends up stating that I said I'm not pursuing other people. I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that things might not change between us. That was real. I'm like, finally, you finally being real, because there is a possibility. And that's the thing, too. It's like, you can't state that there's never going to be anything that's going to change between y'all when y'all are still here on the show and you know there's going to be bombshells coming in any day, every other day. And one of those bombshells could turn your head. And that goes for Huda as well. Even though I feel like Huda is all in on Jeremiah, but he was finally keeping it real. So she ends up stating, so you're pursuing other people now. And he's battling with how to tell her no. And then he ends up saying, he says, as of right now, no. She tries to mock what he just said. And he ends up stating, it's kind of hard to do this right now when it's day 7. I said, finally. And then he was like, if we were further in, it would be a little bit different. But he ends up asking, like, what about you? How are you feeling about it? She says in her confessionals that she's already thinking about the outside world. I'm like, see, she ain't wrapped too tight. But she says she don't want to get played. But he ends up stating that he's not gonna lie to her, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that there's no way that I won't be interested in someone else. And she ends up asking if she should go talk to other people. I said, duh, dummy. Like, he just fucking told you basically he ain't shutting off any other options, even though he's not acting on them. But basically he's stating he's still open to whatever else might come into here. So if you're gonna sit here and just stay all in on him when he just said that shit, that's your own fault. But we all know she's going to still do that. She's not going to explore anything else. But and I'll be shocked if she does. I will be. But he then says, like, how did you even draw? And this is the thing, though. He been gaslighting her, though. But he then says, like, how do you draw that connection? I said, because you basically just told her that you still open. So he then says, too, that you've seen how I act. Like, you haven't seen me pursuing anybody actively. And she's like, yeah, you're doing great. And he ends up telling her, I hate when you say that shit, because it's like you're talking to a kid or a dog and say, she's a mom. I'm like, I'm shocked she didn't say I'm a mom. But she starts talking about, do you want to go shower together? She's trying to seduce him now at this point. And I'm like, you should have took that as a sign that he's kind of getting up off of you. But he ends up shaking his head no. And I started hollering because I'm like, what? But he starts playing with her and says, I can't listen to you when you're tired because you gaslight me. And she's like, well, start claiming me then. But it's time to go to bed. So Taylor, he's telling the boys about the physical part with Olandria, still stating that it still ain't there yet. And Jeremiah's like, so did you kiss her yet? Have you kissed her? He's like, yeah. He was like, oh, y'all was kissing. Did y'all like kiss? Was y'all making out? He was like, yeah. But Jeremiah ends up asking Austin if he's pursuing Chelley 100% now. And he says yes, because she always reassures him. He walks out the room. Ace is now in there talking to the boys, Nick and company. Jeremiah's in there. Taylor's in there. He's pretty much telling them essentially his plans for tomorrow to pretty much have a date with someone. He didn't say who it was, but we all know it was Chelley. And he says that he wants to do some like yoga type shit. Nick has never done it before, but he says he will. Chelley is upstairs talking to the girls about how Austin pretty much gets in his own head. And Olandria is like, girl, what you do to him? She's talking like, what you mean what I do? But she then says, like, Austin's just an overthinker. But because I'm still essentially exploring these options that I have, he's still overthinking it. She's like, I can't help the fact that I'm still exploring those connections. And she's right. Like, you're not doing it wrong, Chelley. Like, you're supposed to do that. That's the point of the show. You're doing it right. But the girls, they end up going downstairs to go get into bed with the boys. Ace goes over to Chelley and gives her a hug. Gives her a hug before he goes to bed. And I had to rewind this back because Amaya was walking in and she like throws a heart. And I thought she was doing it to them, but she got a little bit too far. And I think Austin was laying in the bed and I think she did it to him. But she obviously saw it because we're going to get to it in a minute. She then gets in the bed with Ace and asks Ace for a hug and he tells her ass no. I said, oh no, because this is not going to go well with her. Because he literally just hugged Chelley. Not only that, you pretty much talking about you got boundaries and stuff and you don't want nobody touching you or whatever. But I'm like, Amaya, you should have took that as a sign. He feeling her. Because if he told you he got boundaries, a.k.a. I don't want you touching me, I don't want you doing none of this, and he's doing that with her, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? But she ain't clock it. But she gets into bed with that. And Huda and Jeremiah, they actually were not making out. Like, this is probably the first night that they panned those cameras on every couple. And they was actually in their sleep. I said, this about time. Maybe he's pulling away. But let me pause so I can take a drink break. Because we're going to be talking. All right, so the next day, everybody's waking up. Ace ends up running Nick on the plan. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do with the date. So Amaya, she's upstairs getting ready. Chelley's downstairs making breakfast. And Hannah's like, which man you making this breakfast for? She said, girl, it's for Austin. So Ace is out here setting up the date in front of her. Jeremiah goes upstairs to bring Huda her breakfast. And Nick is telling Austin that he's teaching a yoga class for Ace and some girl. And that's what he said. Austin said, which one? He says, he ain't tell me. I started questioning. I'm like, did he really tell you? Or are you just doing this because, Austin is trying to pursue Chelley? Regardless, it was funny to me. But Ace is running around. Chelley and Olandria are down there making breakfast and they watching him. Like, I'm like, are they clocking what he's doing? But he comes up to Chelley while she's making breakfast and asks her, like, what is she making? And she's like, I'm making pancakes. You want some? He says, yes, but not right now. I need you to come out here and go get dressed. Olandria was making her breakfast. She looked up. She be on it. She be paying attention to everything. But Olandria looks up and starts smirking because she already knew what was about to go down. Clearly, she ain't no, but she is smart enough to put two and two together. But Chelley ends up telling Cierra as she's upstairs getting ready that she was trying to make Austin some breakfast. Ace come up out the blue and tell her to go get ready. She's like, what the fuck going on? Cierra's excited about it, obviously. Amaya comes in there and tells Chelley, which I thought she said Shawty. I was like, I know she ain't say Shawty, we need to talk. But she says, Chelley, we need to talk. She says she doesn't mind talking about it in front of the girls, too. I was like, here we go. Here we go. So she asked, what's going on with you and Ace? Because you're one of the girls that I cried to and vented to. And there's been many opportunities for you to tell me that you still had a connection and wanted to pursue it. I said, but you knew that, though. I'm like, Chelley didn't have to tell you that because, A, it's obvious as fuck. Like, she's been having conversations with Ace and Austin. You're not stupid. You've seen that. You've seen that. You knew that. And when y'all was standing there, and I think it's not coincidental because I believe the producers purposely put the people, whenever they do the recouplings, I feel like they purposely put the people together that are together. Her and Chelley were standing next to each other, just like I was about to say Belandria. Beldasha and Cierra were standing together. So you knew it was between the two of y'all and not those two. So clearly, like, come on, you knew. But she's wondering if Chelley internalized what Amaya had told her when she was venting. And she says, it's kind of weird. I said, no, that's just your own insecurity speaking. You're now knowing for sure that you probably lost out on Ace, and you think that Ace is more so in her corner than yours, and you're taking it out on her. And I was about to say you should be taking it out on Ace, but no, because Ace made it clear to you that he no longer wants you. You're the one that woke up the next day and still want to have an issue. But Chelley ends up stating that she understands, and she's trying to talk, and Amaya is cutting her off like she's been doing with every conversation. So she cuts her off before she can even finish her thought. That shit right there would have pissed me off. One thing I can't stand is when somebody cut me off. Like, if you gonna finish talking, shut up. And then when I start talking, shut up. Let me finish my thought. But Ace can hear them downstairs, and Amaya is stating that she feels things are getting messy, especially with the way that she hugged Ace last night, and they doing X, Y, and Z. I said, what X, Y, and Z were they doing? And it was just a basic hug. Like, he went over there and hugged her, but you took it as what it was because you know that he is feeling her and you know that she feeling him too. But like, don't be mad at them. Like, you got to be mad at yourself because you already know what it is. Ace done told you he just wants to be friends. You the one that pretty much told him go explore your connections, and that's what he's doing. I don't understand it. But Chelley then says that she's genuinely interested in Austin, and she says that her and Ace from jump, like, she came in here because obviously we all know they had a previous connection. She said from jump, I came in here and I'm still pursuing it. I'm not doing it in a messy way. And she wasn't. But Amaya is still cutting her off. I said, if you don't shut the fuck up, she would irritate me. And I was like, I like her when she's confident. I liked her when she was confident coming in. Like, I was like, this girl got a lot of confidence. She don't seem like she insecure about nothing. Them insecurities showed up today. And I said, I don't like it. Because I'm like, your beef is with Ace. That's what I wrote. But I was like, no, it's not with Ace. It was. But it can't be with Ace no more because he shut it down. Like, he pretty much let you know, I no longer want to do this. I don't want to pursue you anymore. You still decided that you wanted to continue to pursue him. Now you lashing out on Chelley, which is like, it's the weird stuff. Like when people get cheated on or whatever, and they start wanting to fight the person that was cheating, that was the bystander, the one that you wasn't fucking. And it'd be one thing if you knew that person and they knew that y'all was dating and then they did that. But no, like, this is not that situation. But Amaya then says that she thought that they had a friendship or whatever. And I'm like, I normally would say what friendship, but it's clear, as we all know through social media, that they at least social media friends, at least from what I can understand. But regardless, Chelley still ain't do nothing wrong. But she says she won't even let Chelley talk. Chelley's still trying to talk, and she's trying to address it. And Chelley does address it. Like, you are literally talking over me. Every time I talk, I can't even get a word in. But Huda ends up finally doing something right as well. She's like, let her respond, then you can respond. So I just find it funny too. And I wrote this. I found it funny how she was literally doing all this. Amaya was doing all this, and Olandria was the only girl that wasn't there, but she ends up coming in there eventually, but she didn't do nothing. But Amaya ends up stating that, and I want to make this very clear. Amaya said out her mouth, Ace made it very clear that he is open. And Chelley did not. I said, okay, first of all, she's not dating you, so she don't have to make that clear to you. She don't have to make that clear to you. But Ace made it clear to you that he was open. So whoever he's open with, you can't be mad because he fucking told you that. But Chelley then is still trying to speak, and she's still cutting her off. Olandria walks in. Amaya ends up stating, girl, you can have him. Like, run off in the sunset together. She's saying that now, but she still was trying to pursue him later on, but we'll get to it. But Chelley ends up stating that her energy is misplaced, and she's trying to paint her out to be some bad guy. And she told her what it is. Like, I told her what it is. And I told you that I like Austin, but I'm still going to explore the other connections that I do have. And she says, y'all essentially got coupled up 12 hours ago. It's not my fault. Y'all are not married. Like, I ain't done nothing wrong, and you haven't. But Olandria, she goes downstairs to talk to Ace, who was sitting outside, and he already heard it, so he sees her, and he's like, what's going on? Like, what the fuck is going on? She said, I ain't gonna tell nobody's business, but you just please be transparent. Be as transparent as you can be, because it's looking like somebody is being messy. Basically, she's kind of like tipping him in. And he's like, I'm not being messy. And he has been transparent to a certain degree with her. Like, yeah, he was playing mind games at first, but he ended it very transparent. He made it very clear. I don't want to pursue this with you anymore. So from that point forward, what Amaya does, that's Amaya's fault. But he ends up stating Olandria says things got a little heated between your current situation and Chelley. And he was like, so do I need to just like scrap breakfast? And she's like, yeah. I was like, no, don't do it. But he did. Nick and Taylor, they're having a conversation, and Taylor is pretty much telling him about him and Olandria's conversation the night before, about him pretty much reassuring her and telling her like it's gonna take a lot for somebody to turn my head. And Nick ends up telling him like, keep reassuring her, you need to keep doing that. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do that so she won't be blindsided by anything. But Nick then says that he just wants happiness for Taylor at the end of the day. Chelley goes to talk to Austin and Jeremiah, and she's pretty much bringing them up to speed on what just happened. And Austin's pretty much like, it's weird because like you're not like that. That's not the type of person that you are, and that's what I like most about you, because it's no bullshit with you. Like, you keep it straight. She do. And Austin's happy in his confessionals because Ace's plan to have that date has been scrapped right now. So he's obviously excited about that. But Chelley then says that Ace needs to go clear up that bullshit that's going on because it's unnecessary, and she wants to eat her fucking breakfast. But Ace and Amaya, they go have a Doc moment. Y'all remember Serena and Cordell's moment? That was the moment of the season that turned Love Island to mainstream success. This is nowhere near that, but it damn sure is something that's going to be memorable. Because these two, man, it's crazy. Ace and Amaya. So he goes over there and sets the tone. He said, we're going to have this conversation. You're going to explain yourself. I'm going to explain myself. We ain't going to be sitting here talking over each other. That's going to be it. And then we're going to continue. We're going to listen to each other. It didn't happen that way. But she ends up stating last night, we both agreed to respect each other's boundaries, to respect your boundary, and continue to get to know each other. That's what she's claiming. He said that he wanted to get to know you on a friend's level and continue to be friends. You took it as what you did. That's on you. But he ends up stating, we're going to be friends. We're going to be cool. She says, exactly. So what's the problem, Amaya? But she then brings up him hugging Chelley the night before, and she says like, no, and then she said that he said that he was open but never once brought a name to it. I'm like, so why was you up there yelling at Chelley then? Why was you up there yelling at her? But she then puts her shades on, which cracked me up. She puts her shades on because I don't know if she was about to get emotional, but she puts her shades on. He starts talking. She took them shits right back off and started cutting them off. So Ace ends up telling her that he had told her already that he already had a connection with Chelley, which he did. I remember it. She starts cutting him off, talking all aggressive, moving them hands, moving that neck, doing all this. That Dominican spice was coming out. So he ends up stating, you're not going to cut me off. And she was like, you kept saying this, you kept saying this, you kept saying this. And that neck was just, I said, that head about to roll right off her neck. I was like, it's about to roll off. But she doing the most, doing the absolute most. She gaslighting him now. He gaslit her yesterday, but she gaslighting him today. And she hollering and screaming and shit. I'm like, Ace better than me because he kept his cool. He was very, very mature in this moment. He kept complete control over his emotions. But she finally shut the fuck up. And Ace says, you talking with your hands, you yelling. I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't hear shit you saying. That is some shit I would have said. Because who the fuck you yelling at? Like, who are you yelling at? Just talk like you got some sense. You can have all this energy and stuff, But the minute you start yelling at me, I tune the fuck out. Who are you talking to? Who the fuck are you talking to? But he ends up stating that. And she says, that's fine. We both don't understand each other. And he was like, since you don't understand me, I'm going to make this real clear. He said, I'm going to make this real clear. I don't want to explore you anymore. I said, oh, shit. He said it again. And she says, I don't want to get to know you either. He said, please go get to know other people. But she gets in her confessionals and she's like, clearly we just clashed. We don't work. I'm not going to shade myself. I think that's what she said. I'm not going to shade myself for any man. And she says, I'm happy that we had this conversation because every time we talk, I realize that I don't want to get to know him anymore. I said, okay. Essentially, she wrote her own trip home with this one because she done scared them boys. And we going to get to it in a minute. But Charlie and Austin, they having a conversation. Boring. Austin is talking about Amaya and her drama. And Charlie pretty much tells him, like, pretty much take advantage of it. Go have a date with Chelley. That's what I'm talking about. Austin don't know how to court a black woman because you should have been trying to make these moments. Ace had to make that step for you to then go do something. Like, you should have did that. Like, you should have did it. But Jeremiah, him and Nick are having a conversation, and Jeremiah is talking about the strange comments that Huda been making, the motherly comments that she been making, which lets you know he ain't ready to be stepdaddy because he ain't even comfortable with her even talking to him in a motherly instinct. How you think he gonna be able to do it when he watching her do it with her child? But he ends up saying it's a turn off because she treats him like her kid, which, I mean, I get that too. That is a turn off. And he's like, I'm not your kid. Like, I'm your partner. I mean, I'm coupled up. I was like, ooh. But Jeremiah says, like, he has to be comfortable setting his boundaries, and he feels like he never really does it with her. You don't, and you need to. But Jeremiah says, take those comments out and we're good. Really? Are you? But Olandria, her and Ace are having a conversation. She's asking him about his morning, and he's like, I'm past it now. He says me and Amaya are essentially two different people, and he says he doesn't like to let bad moments cloud his day, essentially. I said it's very mature. You shouldn't. But Austin, he's going downstairs to pull Chelley for a meditation session, his version of the date that Ace was about to do. But Ace is now telling Olandria that he's going to do something different because she's like, go run that date up again. Like, go do it. He's like, nah, let's do something different now. But Austin is pretty much running Chelley through his meditation that he got going on, doing some bow and arrow shit. I ain't never seen that before. But Ace is telling Olandria that he wants Chelley and he wants to pull her for a chat. And she's like, yeah, you should. And I said, I'm going to yell if he go over here and ruin Austin's moment. And he does, but we're going to get to it. But Olandria, she ends up asking him, like, how long have they been chatting? Like, how long is that? And he's looking down at them, and he's like, I don't even know. I don't really care, essentially, because she's like, you don't even care about it. And he was like, no, I don't. Like, 30 seconds is enough for me. But he is now trying to make sure that he's saying in his confessionals he wants to let Chelley know that he wants to show her that he really cares for her. I said, okay, we'll see. But he goes down there and interrupts their little meditation session and pulls Chelley. Austin gives her a hug, the most platonic hug in the world. I said, if anything, you could have grabbed her around her waist or whatever. You could tell he did that, at least from what I took it as, to try and make or at least show a little bit of possession to make Ace feel like, okay, this is still mine too, though. But Ace you wasn't doing nothing to even threaten him. Like, he ain't threatened by you at all. But Cierra, she over there talking to the group about STDs, how they forming, niggas can't keep their dicks out of animals and shit. Amaya was shocked. Hannah's talking about Christopher Columbus had sex with a manatee. I'm like, what the fuck kind of conversations that they got going on? But Ace and Chelley, they go upstairs. And she asks him how he's doing and how he's feeling. And he's like, I was disappointed because I just didn't want to fuck up the momentum that we had going. But I really want to spend more time with you. So he ends up telling her that. She says she likes it. He's now saying in his confessional that Chelley is everything that you could want. He wants to focus in on her. I said, you saying that now when you have multiple opportunities to do that. She was right in your face the whole time. Yes, what you saying is absolutely true. I'm pretty sure any man in the world would die to be able to be in her presence and have her attention. She giving you attention too. She giving you enough to let you know that she's interested. All you got to do is make that move and actually court her. And I'm pretty sure you would have her. It's just like you just playing games. But now he seemingly wants to do it. But Chelley ends up stating that her and Austin are still exploring their connections too. But Olandria, she's talking to Austin now. Olandria just gives everybody the best advice. She going around just telling everybody, this is what you need to do. So he ends up stating that he thought he was done, like the love triangle was done, but clearly it's not. And he ends up telling her that when he sees them talking, he's sitting there wondering, like, do me and Chelley look like that? Like, they look really, really good together. Like, when we're talking, do we look like that? I said, that's your insecurities. And an insecure man, that's not a good sign. But Ace, he's telling Chelley about him and Amaya's conversation at the dock. He ends up letting her know that it's over. He said, I told her that it's over. He said that he feels like him and Chelley have the best communication in the house. And he says it hurts his feelings hearing that Chelley was upset and he doesn't want that to be because of him. And he apologizes for how that happened and how she had to deal with that. She appreciates the apology. She ends up telling her that she just wants to get to know Ace because she felt like he'd be trying to be mysterious, all suave and shit. And he's like, I'm not. I'm just be chilling. And she's saying sometimes it just can be interpreted as a wall. And he's like, well, I ain't got no walls up with you right now. Do you not? But it's starting to knock him down a little bit. But he says, I got to be on my A game with you right now. And I'm like, I'm glad you realize it because you got to. She's not going to chase you. He wants her. That's the thing. He wants her to chase him. And he realizes now that she's not going to do that. Which, like what he said the other night. I think he said it last night. And like what I told y'all a couple nights ago. A man is not going to want a man going to want a woman that's going to throw it at him if he wants that for that moment. But if you want it for the long term, the one that you really going to want is the one that makes you work for it. The one that comes and throws it at you easily, that's a booty call. I can go get you to get a nut off. This one is the one I want a wife. The one that's going to make it easy, or the one that's going to make it hard for me to get her. Like, she's going to make me put in the work to get her. That's the one that you want to marry. And that is Chelley. But she pretty much stays like she being pulled back and forth. And she says she's in a pickle essentially at this point. But we get Olandria. She's telling Austin that he needs to just keep applying the pressure because women appreciate the effort. And he needs to put the foot on the gas because she does actually like him. But everybody's getting ready for the night. About to pause to get another drink break. All right, so everybody's upstairs getting ready. Olandria is showing Chelley the picture of her and Taylor being freaky in the photo booth. Chelley like, oh shit, that's what y'all in there doing. It's your tongue in his mouth. But Austin ends up getting a text. And him and the boys, they go run upstairs to tell the girls. And it's pretty much telling them it's time to speak your truth tonight in the game called Pucker or Pie, a.k.a. Kiss or Pie. Cierra knows it's about to get messy, literally and figuratively, and that's exactly what it was. So it's time for the game. Nick is the first one up. He was asked which islander he thinks, other than his partner, is the best kisser in the house. I guessed it. It was Olandria. A lot of the swirl lover shippers, they've been waiting on these two to have moments. I don't see it, but clearly Nick knows that Olandria is a sexy ass woman. And you know he enjoys and appreciates that. Don't know where it's going to go from there. I don't want that for Olandria. And Olandria, I'm pretty sure she don't want that for herself either because she know how Nick comes and how he is. But he didn't get to kiss her. He had to pie her. But Hannah thinks that Austin is the most basic in bed, which I find extremely hilarious considering the fact that he, quote unquote, has the most bodies out of everybody there. So he should be the most experienced and the most. Would you be in the most experienced? You should know what to do. But she says that he oozes vanilla. I died laughing. But Chelley ends up asking. She's asked which islander she feels regrets coupling up with their current partner. I said, that is messy. How does she end up being the one to get that particular question? Because the most obvious answer was Ace. And of course she said it. She got to pie him. Taylor thinks that Chelley would be the freakiest one in the bedroom. I'm like, okay, that's valid. But I'm like, you should have said the woman that you're coupled up with. But I mean, it's valid. But Cierra ends up thinking that Ace is there for clout over love. He was like, damn. I mean, I can see why she would say that. But they got to kiss, and boundaries was gone. Boundaries was gone. He was all up in that kiss. Nick was trying not to watch it. Alandria is covering his eyes. I was like, damn. But Jeremiah thinks Huda is the most high maintenance, which she is. He tried to get me personally. I thought he was trying to flip that thing so hard that it did not say kiss, but it ended up being a kiss, and they was kissing. Nick, nope. I just went up. Olandria. She thinks that Jeremiah is most likely to fake a relationship to get to the final. We've been saying it all season. I've been saying it all season. Truth. And she gonna tell the truth. She ain't never gonna bite her tongue. Even though she did with Huda the other night. But Amaya. She thinks that Nick is the most boring in the house. And I said, Nick? I said, Austin and Charlie are right there. And Hannah. Like, they right there. But they kiss. Charlie thinks that Amaya is the most flirtatious. And he called her Amira. She ended up getting pied. Chelley ends up stating that you still a bad bitch. Even after all that shit that she did, Chelley is still showing that she is a true girl's girl. But Huda thinks that Ace is waiting on somebody better to walk in. I said, we all know that it's your dude. It's the dude that you with, but you wouldn't say it because you too delusional to see it. But Ace ends up feeling some type of way about it. He said he felt like Huda got some secret vendetta because she made slick comments before. And he says it's feeling personal and he don't know why. I said, you don't know why? She could be doing that, but what have you been doing all season? Even though you completely correct, all your assessments I completely agree with. But you've been on her head too. So, I mean, it's tit for tat. But Nick ends up stating that Austin gives the most big dick energy, which I'm like, okay, not with them insecurities. But Taylor thinks that Amaya is trying too hard. I said I would have said Huda, but Amaya, I mean, it's valid because Amaya got all that energy. And I feel like you can say she's trying too hard. You could think she is, but I think she's just naturally that crazy. Like, I do. But they ended up kissing. Cierra ends up saying that Chelley gives her the biggest red flags because Cierra wanted that kiss. And I don't blame you. I do too. But they was going in. That shit was nice to look at. Two beauties. But Ace thinks that Chelley has the nicest smile. Obviously, he was going to choose her because he wanted that kiss. And it landed on that kiss. And boy, he picked up a pie. And Chelley was looking at him like, what the fuck you about to do? That did not say that. That nigga smooth criminal. Licked that pie, put that in her mouth, and they got to getting it. Everybody in there was screaming. These two got the most chemistry out of everybody on the show. Easily. When you watch them doing all this stuff, you be like, y'all need to go on somewhere. Like, go on somewhere. It was a lot. But you could tell they feeling each other. It's like forbidden love. You know how, like, it's like you trying to be with somebody, you know you want to be with that person, but you can't. But when you get that moment, it's just that spark because y'all ain't been there. And that's what that is. Like, they got a lot of chemistry. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know if it's going to last outside of the real world, or outside of this. But shit, who knows? But Austin obviously is uncomfortable because he said he and Chelley ain't even kissed like that before, obviously. But Chelley ends up stating that Ace and that kiss did not help her decision process when it comes between him and Ace. And I'm like, or him and Austin. I said, it didn't. It didn't. Because y'all clearly got way more chemistry than you and Austin could ever have. But Austin ends up thinking that Hannah is the most likely to cheat. I said, Jeremiah clocked it. He said he just trying to get his lick back. And that's exactly what it was. He got in there and tried to kiss her. Well, she kissed him because he had to pie her, but she kissed him and he's sitting there trying to dry hump her. I'm like, they weren't. If you trying to compete on which ones it was, you weren't even nowhere near in that competition for that kiss that they had going on. That was natural chemistry. But they finish all that. The girls and the guys, they go off to recap the game. Taylor ends up telling Ace that he took one for Ace today. And I'm like, what you mean you took one? He's talking about picking Amaya. I said, how? Because Ace don't want her no more. And you had the opportunity to choose whoever you wanted to choose. So how was you really taking one? I said, did you really want to kiss Amaya? Because that's what it gave me. But Jeremiah ends up asking him how the kiss was. And Taylor was like, I could have cared less. I didn't want to do it. Did you not? Because I feel like you did. But Amaya's telling the girls that she was confused about him picking her for that trying hard thing. And I'm like, how are you confused? But Chelley ends up saying, I'm thinking that it's probably like you trying so hard to keep somebody. And Amaya agrees that that's what she was thinking. But she said, I'm going to get some clarification from Tay-Tay. And Chelley said, who? She said, Taylor. She was like, it makes sense because of who he's besties with. And she said, what you know is Ace. I died. Amaya got some funny moments. She's entertaining. Like, she entertaining. She's crazy. Her and Huda is crazy because they actually are kind of alike, but she is more entertaining though. Huda is just annoying all the way. Amaya can be annoying, but Amaya got some moments where she is actually funny. Like, she's actually good TV. But they end up asking her how she would rate Taylor's kiss, and obviously she said a -5. And she said, what you mean? What you mean I'm trying too fucking hard? She is crazy. But Huda ends up stating that she feels bad for Ace. She felt bad for choosing Ace. And I'm like, no, you didn't. But she ends up stating that she did it because he laughed at hers. But Amaya ends up stating that she's waiting for the next. I don't know what I wrote. I don't know what I wrote, but she ended up saying, oh, Amaya says she's waiting for the next thing. Amaya says she's waiting for the next thing. I'm waiting for the next thing walking in here. We know you are because none of them boys want you because you scare them. But Cierra ends up stating that that's probably going to be the one that Ace will be most offended by, which it is because Ace is over there telling Jeremiah, your girl done pissed me the fuck off. And he says like she wasn't being truthful about what she was asked. He ain't lying because we all know the answer was Jeremiah. Like the answer that she gave, the question that she gave, the answer basically being Ace, I truly believe that Jeremiah fits that the best. I do. But Nick ends up stating that she didn't want to call nobody out essentially, and she essentially needs to say what she was thinking and she didn't do it. But Nick ends up stating too that Jeremiah, I know you don't agree with that because that's your girl, but that's what we saw. Jeremiah says, so what, like you're stating that she's scared to say some shit? Like, are you saying that she's fake? And they basically are stating like she's hiding how she feels. And Jeremiah says, interesting. I mean, I see what you're saying. You can see Jeremiah starting to think about what they're saying. Like it's starting to process in his mind. Whether he believes it or not, he's taking it in and he's thinking about it. Because I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the episode, when Olandria had that conversation, that started it. And now he's hearing more and more and more. And the more you hear from multiple different people, you start to really start analyzing. And he's starting to analyze it. Nick says, unpopular opinion, I'm about to say it for you right now. I think that she's going about this experience in a very fraudulent way. Because it's too soon. It's too early to be closed off. It's day 8. Where's the lie? We've been saying it all season. He ends up stating that he feels like she's basically looking at you as a safe choice. And Jeremiah says, interesting. And he's taking it in. Like in his confessionals, he said that it hurt his feelings hearing that stuff. But Huda comes over to pull Ace for a chat. So Ace ends up telling her, I ain't fuck with them side comments that you had. And he tells her that I feel like it's a hidden agenda and a hidden vendetta. And I don't fuck with it. She ends up saying that she's sorry that she made him feel that way. And she said she was joking. And she said, I didn't know you'd be this upset about it. But she then says that she was going to choose. It was between either him or Amaya. And she said, I would rather kiss you. And the way she said it, I was like, because y'all know everybody been saying Ace been choosing and doing this shit because he wants Huda. Maybe Huda would want Ace too. I don't know. The way she was acting, I was like, interesting. Because if Jeremiah said this shit, she would have lost her fucking mind. Imagine Jeremiah saying that. But Jeremiah is looking at her as they're having this conversation. But she's sitting over there laughing and giddy. And I'm like, oh, interesting. But she ends up telling him that she fucks with him and she hates that she made him feel that way. They hug it out. He says that he pretty much hopes that they can move forward. But if it keeps happening, they're going to have another conversation. So Amaya, she go walking over there to the boys to go let Tay-Tay have it. And they scared. They like, oh, fuck, here she go. She coming over there looking crazy. Because her hair, you can tell that humidity is all over her hair. But she come walking over there like Amaya do. And she said, Tay-Tay, can we talk? He said, yeah. Everybody's sitting over there on pins and needles. Everybody's watching it, even the girls. But Amaya ends up asking Taylor, what did you mean by this trying so hard comment? He said, you was trying too hard with Ace. He kept it real with her too. And he was like, when Ace is trying to explore other people, y'all agreed that y'all wanted to explore other people. And when he's doing it, like what he did with Chelley, it was a problem. He ain't lying. And she says, like, there's a lot of confusion. And he's like, well, catch me up to it. Like, let me know what's up. So she then says that when she went to bed, she was thinking about wanting to cook Ace some breakfast to show some effort. I'm like, but he already told you that he was no longer interested. Why are you doing this? That's why Taylor said what he said. That is trying too hard. But Amaya then says that he had hugged Chelley, but told her no to a hug too. But she ends up stating after it all, I need somebody that understands me. He needs somebody that understands him. And she tells him that she could see why he was stating that she was trying too hard to fix things, because she was trying too hard to fix things. She owned up to it. But they dap it up. This was funny because he was like, you my dog. And she was like, that's my dog. She is so funny. I'm telling you, she is funny. Like, even though she got her moments, she has her redeeming qualities because she is very entertaining. I enjoy her presence in the house when she ain't acting a fool, because she is funny. But Huda, this is the final scene, and this was interesting. She goes up to Jeremiah, who looks completely dazed. You can tell he's really processing everything. Everybody's around, but he's sitting there, but he's just like in his mind. She notices it and is like, what's wrong? She's standing up over him. She grabs his hand. He shakes her hand and goes, But he's not even looking at her. She's standing over him. He's not looking at her. So she walks away because she mad as fuck because he's not paying her any attention at this point. She gets in her confessionals and is like, what the fuck is this? Like, it makes me sad that he don't even want to talk to me. So she's sitting next to Huda and Olandria. Huda's sitting next to Nick and Olandria. She asked Nick, why is he mad at me? Nick says, I don't know why he would be mad at you. Nick, I said, Nick is messy as shit because you know exactly why. You the reason why. Like, what? But Olandria always getting the tea. What happened? Wait, what happened? But Austin ends up asking Jeremiah if he wants to talk. And Austin asked Jeremiah if he wants to talk. And Jeremiah's like, yeah, I'm straight. I don't need to talk. I'm good. So Huda gets up again. She said, I'm going to go ask him. I said, Huda, take it as a sign. This man clearly don't want to talk to you. He don't want to talk to you right now. Give him some space. But she don't. She goes over there and pulls him by his hand and gets up like a mama, dragging her child. And he walking by her like, that shit had me weak. I was dying laughing. This episode was so funny. But they go sit over there far away from everybody else, but they can still see. And she asking him, like, what's up with you? Like, she just picking and picking. What's up? What's up? Can I be upset with her? No, because she is trying to get him to communicate, which I understand. Which he could literally tell her, it's just not the moment. I just need some space. But she wasn't catching the hint. Like, nonverbal cues, he did not want to be bothered. Leave him alone. That's what I was screaming at the TV. But he ends up stating there's nothing to talk about. Which is why I'm like, you can't be it's like I want to have his back in this moment, but you sitting here, just tell the girl, get out my fucking face. I don't want to talk to you right now. But she ends up stating, you're all about communication. If you don't want to talk to me right now, just say it. You don't want to talk to me right now. He's like, well, who said that? I said, nigga, your body language said that shit. Like, what? What? But he says it has nothing to do with you, but it does. It does. But she says, what does it have to do with then? Like, you're not telling me anything. Everybody else is sitting over there watching, speculating what's going on with them. And Austin was like, them boys done got in his head. Cierra said, what the fuck did y'all do? Like, what are y'all doing? Like, what happened? So Jeremiah is over there telling Huda there were comments that were made by the guys that made him get turned off. And she was like, about what? Like, obviously she's upset. And he's like, I'm good, bro. I said, bro. I said, uh-oh, he is off her. And that body language was showing it too, because he was not even turned in towards her. And he leaning away like this too. I said, oh shit. But she's crying now because he says like they pretty much said like half of the time you seem like you about it, but some of the times you feel like you playing it safe. She's crying now, and she was like, you're saying this. No, she says, this is why I don't tell them shit. Like, I don't want to tell them nothing. And she says, you're supposed to be talking to me. I'm your best friend. You're supposed to be talking to me and confiding in me. I said, he can't have friends? I'm like, he can have some friends. He don't have to always be just up around you. But that tells me how she is. She one of them people that when she in a relationship, she probably block all her friends out. So, I don't know. Something ain't right with her. But he ends up stating, I'm not doing all the drama. And she says, I'm not trying to, but that just hurts, bro. And he trying to push her away. It's clear as day. He trying to push her away, but her crazy ass ain't getting the hint. But Thursday, it's getting even wilder. Ace, because they still standing there with that whipped cream. Chelley pushes her chest out, and Ace took full advantage. Licked her from here on up in front of Austin. I said, oh, shit. Oh, shit. Hey, they doing what they got to do. I don't see nothing wrong with it. But y'all let me know what y'all think down below. I did good today. I'm not going to have to edit this one. I'm just have to clip those parts in, but I ain't going to have to edit it. Thumbs up the video, y'all. Drop a comment down below. Share the video. Subscribe. Be on the lookout. I don't know if me and Elise going to go live tomorrow because I might have something to do. She might still be out of town, but we'll tap in. If we don't go live tomorrow, we're going to go live next Wednesday. But I'll see y'all on Thursday for the craziest. This season is good. Y'all tell me what y'all thinking. I'll see y'all then. Peace.